Islam Moors, all meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. I want to ask that all Moors who are able to please rise and face the east as we recite the Moorish American prayer. We stand facing the east with our heels together, feet at a 45-degree angle, and holding up 2 fingers on the right and 5 on the left. Please repeat after me. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. Islam Moors, I want to announce that this meeting is now open. This is the Moorish Science Temple of America, Temple 30, Columbus, Ohio. First and foremost, we always rise giving the highest of praise to the Most High, our Father God Allah. We extend honors to our divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali, for bringing us our divine creed and nationality so that we may learn to love instead of hate. We extend honors to the forerunner to the prophet, Brother Marcus Mosiah Garvey, for preparing the way for purity and love. And we extend honors to the Moorish and American flags. We extend honors to the Charter and its 10 wonders. And we extend honors to the first appointed Supreme Grand Sheikh appointed by the prophet, Brother E. Millie Ill. We extend honors also to all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. And lastly, we extend honors to the current Supreme Grand Sheikh, Brother Kenu Bey, and the Supreme Grand Council of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Islam Moors. And I will now read our divine constitution and bylaws. Salvation, Allah, unity, the Moorish Science Temple of America, the divine constitution and bylaws. Act 1, the Grand Sheikh and the chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America is empowered to make law and enforce laws with the assistance of the prophet and the grand body of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The assistant Grand Sheikh is to assist the Grand Sheikh in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Act 2, all meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest because on a Friday the first man was formed in flesh, and on a Friday the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. No members to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Act 4, all members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are a part and parcel of the government and must live the life accordingly. Act 5, this organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to pardon, Morris. I'm going to go ahead and repeat, go back to Act 5. This organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6, with us all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and partial of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, Black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites whom inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7, all members must promptly attend their meetings and become a partner partial of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his father, God Allah. Noble Drew Ali, founder, Moorish American prayer, Allah, the father of the universe, the father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. The Moorish Science Temple of America. Home office of Noble Drew Ali, home office, Chicago, Illinois, U.S.A. Islam. Brother Cole Bay, would you please read our writs?
Islam, Grand Sheikh, I rise to give perfect praise to the great God Allah, rise to give honor to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, rise to give honor to the forerunner Marcus Messiah Garvey, the Harbinger, rise to give honors to our charter, rise to give honors to our Supreme Grand Sheikh Kinu Umar Bey, rise to give honors to all ills and bays, all mosques on the call and on the planet, to be proclaimed in every meeting. Islam, I am glad to know I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There's a host of jealousy about me in the movement now, by the same people of our side of the nation that claimed that I was a joke and unreal. But now, since they found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that pay their divine respects to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I'm calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance, and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world would not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works, which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet, Noble Drew Ali. To the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Islam, this is instructions from your prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Be faithful unto your forefather, divine and national creed, that you will be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is on now, but the weak can comprehend it not. The end of times are drawing near, so says Allah to his divine prophet, I, Noble Drew Ali. And that is why many hearts have turned to stone. Many have eyes to see, but cannot see, ears to hear, but cannot hear, lest they'll be confined of their sins. These are the trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving, and they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but will sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your prophet. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine and national principles of your temples. Act accordingly, and Allah will bless you for your good work. Peace, your divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Prophet warns all Muslims to be read in every meeting. I hereby inform all members they must end all radical speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be a severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their rewards from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet,
joined the meeting.
This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Noble Drew Ali, and the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out a divine plea to all Moorish Americans they do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Peace. Noble Drew Ali. Islam, Islam, Islamism. Happy Holy Day, Muslims.
Gratitude, brother Islam. All right, Sister Lachey L, would you please read our additional laws?
Islam. I rise and give all praise to the great Father God Allah. I give honors to the Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali. I give honors to the forerunner Marcus Messiah Garvey. I give honors to all Muslims on the call and all Muslims around the world. Questionary and additional laws for the Moorish Americans by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Act 1. Grand sheikhs and governors and heads of all temples, all business. Each said temple must be approved by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Before acting upon by any members, let it be finance, property, or any line of life that will cause members to sacrifice finance, etc., that will cause the support of any group of members. Any former officer that violates these laws is subject to be removed from his office under a heavy restriction, etc., by the Prophet or the Grand Sheikh. Act 2. All members are to attend their adept meetings and their public meetings promptly. If a member is found standing around on their meeting period, shall be fined 50 cents on the first case, and on the second, he will be fined $1, which will go on your emergency fund. If member is working, his monthly dues must be paid, and if he has money in the bank, he must subscribe for as much as he is able to the Moorish uplifting funds, because it takes finance to uplift the nation. Act 3. It is the lawful and divine duty of every good member, if he is able in finance, to aid me in saving the nation. And if he does not, he is an enemy to the cause of uplifting his own people, and justice must catch you. Let it be he or she according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, as I have the power invested in my hands, and I would have to enforce the law in order to save the nation. Act 4. All members, while up making a public speech, must not use any assertion against the American flag or speak radical against the church or any member of any organized group, because we are to teach love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Act 5. All members must promptly attend their meetings and send their children to Sunday school, and the teacher must confirm himself to the questionnaire, and let every member exercise his 5 senses who is able to do so, because out from your Sunday school comes the guiders of the nation. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we're teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, Black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live in the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and a parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and mind pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his Father God, Allah. Islam. Happy Holy Day, Muslims. Yes.
All right, gratitude, Sister Islam. Let's go ahead and get things started. We don't want to take up more time than we're supposed to, right? We want to keep our meetings timely. We're going to be in chapter 20 today in the Holy Koran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. In chapter 20, we have the holy instructions and warnings for all young men. Before we go into chapter 20, though, just want to say a few things regarding this particular chapter. So we've completed the lessons on Jesus' life, which of course had the missing 18 years of his life that weren't in the Bible. Also, missing years and key aspects in the life of John the Baptist. So now we're moving into chapters 20, I would say 20 through 48, like the rest of the Quran. Also profound teachings that the prophet deemed important to the upliftment of our people, right? But these holy instructions aren't just guidelines, right? They have divine wisdom in them that's intended to elevate humanity by helping us to live in harmony, right? And in harmony with what? It's in harmony with ourselves, with our families, right? So not even just in our households, but also our communities. And by doing this, ultimately, we're in unity with the divine will of Allah. You see the handpress of unity everywhere. It's on our nationality card. We see it also on the divine constitution and bylaws, right? That hand clasp. And so on one hand, that unity is about, okay, being in unity, working together as a unit, but also that unity is being in unity with the divine will of Allah, right? When we're in unity with the divine will of Allah, our earthly and divine salvation is guaranteed. So that's what all this work is really about, getting in unity with the divine will of Allah. And so when we go into chapters 20 through 24, we have holy instructions for men, women, husbands, wives, and children. Right? Holy instructions for that covers everyone. Everyone in our community. So these are foundational chapters because this is the blueprint for our families, for our family relationship. And it's also the blueprint for our community because for us as Moorish American Muslims, the family is the nucleus of any community that we start. It's always at the center. We can't forget that. That always has to be in the back of our mind. The family is the nucleus of our community, right? And the prophet emphasized that the sacred nature of each role within the family, right? Husbands, wives, and children. We all have a sacred role. We all have a divine role. All right. So this is important to know, right? These divine principles that we are to adhere to. So we have divine roles within our family. And when we do this, it guarantees our salvation. Right. We're going into chapter 20. In here, men are being called to live with honor, to step up to the responsibility, integrity, to have integrity. Right. We're being called on actually to serve as spiritual leaders and to be protectors of the family. So we're being called on and being molded to do this, right? So it's very important to understand and adhere to. Just wanted to speak on that just real briefly before we get started. We could go ahead and just go into chapter 20 now. But of course, it's important to understand why the prophet put these lessons here, why everything is even just in the order that it's in, right? First, we're taught about the missing lessons from Jesus' life because they teach us about our true nature, what we're really here for. And then we're given instructions on how to build our communities, which start with the family. Everything starts at home for us. All right. Going into chapter 20, I'll just read through this briefly and we'll go more in depth with the instructions. So chapter 20, holy instructions and warnings for all young men. Beware, young man, beware of all the allurements of wantonness, and let not the harlot tempt thee to excess in her delights. The madness of desire shall defeat its own pursuits. From the blindness of its rage, thou shalt rush upon destruction. Pardon. Therefore, give not up thy heart to her sweet enticements, neither suffer thy soul to be enslaved by her enchanting delusions. Real quick, just pause real quick here. This harlot is not just some woman who's like loose sexually, right? A harlot that tempts thee can be anything, anything that appeals to our lower self. So just going back to verse 3, therefore give not up thy heart to her sweet enticements, neither suffer thy soul to be enslaved by her enchanting delusions. The fountain of health which must supply the stream of pleasure shall quickly be dried up, and every spring of joy shall be exhausted. In the prime of thy life, old age shall overtake thee. The sun shall decline in the morning of thy days. But when virtue and modesty enlighten her charms, the luster of a beautiful woman is brighter than the stars of heaven. In the influence of her power, it is in vain to resist. The whiteness of her bosom transcendeth the lily. Her smile is more delicious than a garden of roses. The innocence of her eyes is like that of the turtle. Simplicity and truth dwell in her heart. The kisses of her mouth are sweeter than honey. The perfumes of Arabia breathe from her lips. Shut not thy bosom to the tenderness of love. The purity of its flame shall ennoble thy heart and soften it to receive the fairest impressions. Islam, let's go back through this now. Briefly, just want to touch on a few things and then we'll open up the floor to questions. Want to make sure we understand the spiritual guidance and the warnings of chapter 20, right? Because it's the focus here is really on developing virtue, our higher virtues, right? Self-control and appreciation of divine love, right? Because as we begin to do these things, we're unfolding something much greater within us, something that society isn't going to tell us about, something that's not promoted in the media or anything of that nature. It's not even promoted to us. It's not held up in esteem. So we want to address this because, that for us, it's critically important that we do begin to practice self-discipline, right? If we're not doing it. And to be aware of temptations and the things out there that get us stuck in our own lower nature, our own carnal nature, right? That rob us of our true power. And understanding that this isn't promoted in society. The society that we're in has devolved so low that it doesn't promote having discipline, to have self-discipline. It's going in the opposite direction, right? But as we come into this this is a great guide for moral and spiritual growth for all men, right? And especially for the youth, because they're not getting this anywhere else, right? This isn't in the video games. It's not in the shows or cartoons they're watching. It's not in anything, right? They're actually being pushed to have no control. Just feed your desires. That's what we're getting. So going into verse 1, beware, young man, beware of all the allurements of wantonness, and let not the harlot tempt thee to excess in her delights. The madness of desire shall defeat its own pursuits. From the blindness of its rage, thou shalt rush upon destruction. And wantonness, right, is symbolizing uncontrolled desires, just out of control. I'm going to eat until I can't eat no more. I'm going to just, stay up, just wasting time, right? Just anything that we do out of control, right? It is not just physical, but it's also material and also emotional indulgences, right? Things that we're giving too much into, out of control. Wantonness. And the harlot, once again, representing these false attractions of the lower self. These things all lead to moral and spiritual ruin. So it's not just the woman, the harlot, right? The harlot also is representation of these false attractions of the lower self, right? When we recognize this now and realize that modesty and guarding ourselves from indecency actually empower us. We can look in the Quran of Mecca, Surah 24, verses 30 through 31, right? Just giving us more insight into, what direction we're truly supposed to be going in, right? Because when we begin to strengthen our own discipline, right, self-discipline, being able to control our desires, now we're going to the path of righteousness, right? Everything else is the distraction. Everything else is leading us away from the path of righteousness. Everything else is getting us more stuck in our lower self, right? We're just empowering the lower self because we're giving in to all the desires. So, moving forward, verse 3, therefore give not up thy heart to her sweet enticements, neither suffer thy soul to be enslaved by her enchanting delusions. Okay. Um, right there, just once again highlighting the importance of having control of our mind, right? Not being able to be manipulated emotionally. This is how when people are selling stuff to you, whether it's being snuck in a TV show or snuck in a video game to try to get you to want to purchase, spend money, spend time, more time doing something, things that appeal to our emotion, right? To manipulate us. So it's even more important now than it was in 1812 when there weren't so many advertisements, there weren't so many things fighting for your attention. So even just the things we give our attention to, this is what saps our power. This is what, robs us, right? But they can't force you to do it. These are things that we willingly give into. All right. So just coming back to this, we, therefore give not up thy heart. The heart is representing the seat of emotional and spiritual consciousness. So we want to guard it, right? That means maintaining our spiritual focus. We have to know our true nature. We have to be aware of this. This is why we have the holy days. This is why we have the Sunday school to keep us on the right path, right? Even if you already know this stuff, it's a reminder because chances are we all slipping up somewhere. And if we're the ones that oh no, I ain't slipping up nowhere. That means you probably, you don't even know your own. Yeah, you don't even know your own weaknesses. Yeah, you're the worst one, right? So, just going that, verse 3, a good thing to do to apply, um, to be able to apply on a daily basis to work on ourselves. We want to practice meditation and mindfulness, right? To strengthen our inner resolve, to keep ourselves strong on the right path so that we're keeping ourselves on the right path, right? Um, Going to verse 4, the fountain of health, which must supply the stream of pleasure, shall quickly be dried up, and every spring of joy shall be exhausted. So this is overindulgence. Eventually, it depletes everything physically, emotionally, and even spiritual vitality, right? And this is another thing with the lower self, traveling to and fro, seeking whom I may devour, like giving in to these desires and things like that, never be satisfied. And eventually it dries up everything. Okay. In the Quran of Mecca, verse 2, chapter 2, verse 195, it has warnings in there, right? About self-destruction. And all of this, destruction is coming from within, giving in to all of these different desires, right? So we want to embrace moderation. We want to align ourselves with the natural laws of balance. Extremely important. We don't want to live out of balance. We don't want to try to build a Moorish community without practicing these things, man. We don't want to live around each other if we're not trying to do what's right. It would be hell even to be living around each other. And it's not, oh, we all, you know, Moors. No, it won't be a nice place to even visit if we're not doing the work on ourselves.
Have examples in every city and every hood how we are when we're undisciplined and we don't follow, you know, these teachings. We see how grimy our people can be.
Yeah, it's it's not, it's not a cool place to be, right? So we really have to do the work, and even maybe even more so in our community, because in our community, it's like you have a teenage daughter, you feel good with her being out in the community. You trust that. You can't even have your wife out in the community because you can't trust your own people. So it's, we have to do this work on ourselves, right? We can't overlook this. Verse 5, in the prime of thy life, old age shall overtake thee. The sun shall decline in the morning of thy days, right? So understanding the youth is fleeting in nature. It's the time is always ticking. So instead of doing, what is society doing? Oh, just cover that up, get to liposuction, get these fillers, get this surgery. To do what? To try to look young, right? To try to feed the ego. So this society that we're in is, I've said this before, but it's even more important now than it was in the early 1900s. You have so much fakeness. It's So all of this fake stuff is being promoted and pushed to the people, pushed to the youth. If you're, children or teenagers, young adults don't have a positive influence, letting them know what's really going on. They're growing up thinking it's cool to go get these injections, to go get this surgery, because that's what they're seeing other people doing it, right? They're seeing the celebrities doing it. They're seeing real people that they know doing it. Okay. So it's extremely important that we are practicing these divine instructions, these warnings in our own life, right? Because of course, youth is fleeting in nature, right? So we don't want to invest in surgeries and all this other stuff. Try to look young. We want to invest in spiritual growth rather than temporal pleasures, temporal, physical, temporary pleasures. All right. We want to invest in our own spiritual growth. Um, the sun shall decline in the morning of thy days. The sun representing spiritual illumination. Neglecting it leads to spiritual darkness. So if we're not doing the work to, to enlighten ourselves spiritually, to grow spiritually, right? We're invested in all the other stuff, which a lot of people are doing. They made it now where regular people can get all these surgeries and do all this stuff. So, we want to be going in the opposite direction, right? We want to use our time wisely to cultivate these higher virtues because the higher virtues endure. The higher virtues don't decline with age, right? And then moving forward, verses 6 through 9, right? When virtue and modesty enlighten her charms, right? You have all these positive things that happen. The perfumes of Arabia breathe from her lips. All these positive things that are listed when virtue and modesty enlighten her charms. So a virtuous and modest woman is symbolizing purity and also spiritual refinement, right? This is an allegory for divine love and the power that it has to transform. So virtue shines brighter than any earthly attraction. When we look at Proverbs chapter 31, Proverbs 31, verses 10 through 31, it's just going on about the qualities of a virtuous woman. So when we look at this, from a metaphysical perspective, beauty is actually representing inner harmony and also alignment with divine principles, right? We're not looking at it from a simple perspective. Okay. We also, as people get in relationships, connect with other people, We want to seek relationships and seek connections that are rooted in a mutual respect and spiritual growth, right? We're not trying to choose people based just off of body parts and how they look, right? And as we do this, it guarantees our earthly and divine salvation. Last verse, verse 10, shut not thy bosom to the tenderness of love. The purity of its flame shall ennoble thy heart and soften it to receive the fairest impressions. So here, speaking about divine love, when we embrace divine love, it changes, it refines the soul, and it opens it up to higher spiritual awareness. All right. In the Quran of Mecca, chapter 30, verse 21, it's highlighting love as a sign of Allah's creation and mercy. Love is the highest expression of divine energy. It purifies and it transforms. So we want to cultivate a heart that's open to love as a pathway to spiritual elevation. All right. We want to, of course, we want to actually embody these divine instructions, right? This isn't something that we could just overlook, because when we're succumbing to the lower desires of the flesh and the mind, right? While we're doing this, we're going in the opposite direction, right? We're going in the complete opposite direction of where the prophet set us up to go. So instead of like on the Quran questionnaire, where we're standing on the solid rock of salvation, we're going into the cares of the world, deeper into the cares of the world, where the waters are choppy, where it's hard to stay afloat. So this is taking us in the opposite direction so that we can begin to transcend all the material distractions, so that we can begin to attain spiritual enlightenment. This is really what it's all about. All right. And the spiritual dynamics that's in here, just going back up to verse 1 through 3, these warnings against the temptations, right? And it's just letting us know what happens when we're giving in, the wantonness. Remember the harlot, those verses all symbolizing the allure of base desires. Remember, the harlot is not just a woman that's loose, right? That could be an example, but also anything. These base desires can be physical, they can be emotional or material. These are temptations. And while they're initially pleasing, they enslave the soul. They divert it from its higher purpose. It could be video games. It could be TV. It could be all types of things that when we give in to it and we don't exercise any or very little control, very little discipline, it diverts us from our higher purpose, right? And it actually enslaves us. Okay? And so, in the Quran of Mecca, in chapter 17, verse 32, there's a warning in there where Allah's warning against approaching adultery, and not just adultery, but also immoral behavior, right? Because these actions lead to destruction. And so in that manner, cheating, going against what we're supposed to be doing, right? It always leads to destruction. And the desires of the lower self cloud the mind. That's what they do. They cut us off from divine understanding. So the harlots in our life, male or female, it's excessive consumption. It's unhealthy relationships, right? It could even be, because it can also be thoughts. It's negative thought patterns. We want to recognize them, because that's the first step to liberation. So it's not just, some person, right? These are several harlots in our life, right? And wrapping things up too. Verses 4 and 5 is giving the consequences of overindulgence. It's letting you know what happens, right? Because when we overindulge in these things, right? It drains our vitality. It shortens the day of spiritual youth. And it leaves us spiritually impoverished. And we want to remember, right? Stick to the path, because in the Quran of Mecca, Surah 2 or chapter 2, verse 286 reminds us that Allah does not burden any soul beyond its capacity. And that whole verse is teaching us to live within the bounds of moderation. We're adding all these extra things to it, right? I ain't got to spend all this money. You got to do all this stuff to feed these habits, right? So that wasn't some burden that Allah put on us. These are things that we take on as we get more and more into the physical body, the body consciousness, the carnal mind. So the fountain of health is symbolizing that life force, that chi, prana, right? Holy breath. And misusing it leads to premature decline. So it's not just physically, but also spiritually. So we want to think about that, how moderation in our habits, whether it's diet, whether it's work, whether it's relationships, that preserves not only our physical health, but also mental clarity and spiritual vitality. Wrapping it up again, verses 6-9, the virtue and the divine power of love, or the power of divine love, right? All of this is being revealed, like what comes from, having virtue, having modesty, right? It makes all of these positive things happen, right? Because a virtuous woman or person, period, represents purity, and it represents a life that's aligned with divine principles. So this is showing the qualities of divine love, and that it transforms, that it uplifts. So virtue is not something that's passive, it's active, right? Alignment with the divine. The whiteness of her bosom and innocence of her eyes symbolize the purity of thought and intention. So we want to nurture relationships that are based on this mutual respect, on spiritual alignment and love, rather than superficial attractions. Not just with somebody because you like their body parts, right? We want to go towards the higher principles. And then the power of love to transform in that verse 10. Divine love softens the heart. It elevates the soul, and it prepares it for higher spiritual impressions, which means insight from the higher self. All right. So, love, when it's rooted in purity, it's a refining power. It's purging lower desires, and it's replacing them with divine attributes. And this can happen for each and every one of us if we just but show a little bit of work or desire, right, to connect to our own higher self. So on a daily basis, right, to apply these spiritual instructions, right, to our life, we want to practice self-control. We want to recognize it. Okay, yeah, there's temptations around us. It doesn't matter whether it's in our personal habits, relationships, right, ambitions. We all have these, temptations, right? So we want to have practical boundaries. We want to, have limit, how long we're on social media, right? Or just give it up altogether and just have healthier routines. Or if you gotta play video games all the time, limit the time, instead of just, there's no boundaries. It's whatever. Right now, it's 1 hour or less, eating food or something. It's always, you want to place a boundary, have a limit, right? Practice self-control. Women, it could be anything, men, whatever it is. We want to have those boundaries, because if we don't, it will destroy you. We want to embrace moderation and apply that same principle, of balance in our life, like in all aspects, right? Goals, for moderate eating, spending, right? Because for some of us, it's shopping, right? Want to have goals, and be able to conserve our physical and spiritual energy. We don't want to give it all away to everything. And really, the power that we have is in our focus, like what we're doing, what we're focused on, what we're giving our time and attention to. And we also are being instructed to nurture virtuous relationships, right? So that means we want to evaluate the relationships that we have right now to ensure that they're promoting mutual respect, spiritual growth, right? We want to have, genuine connections, right? We want to be able to, to grow in a positive manner. So we're not just with somebody just because you like the way they look or something like that. Because chances are there's all types of negative, toxic stuff coming from that type of relationship. And then we also being encouraged to develop our own spiritual awareness, which we're always being encouraged to do that. So we want to, once again, because we always say this, but we want to begin each day with a moment of prayer, right? Prayer, meditation to connect to our own higher self, to start off the day. I say at least start and end the day, and then go from there. But we want to at least be doing this, every day. All right. And also being encouraged to open our own heart to divine love. One way to do that is to express gratitude. Express gratitude for everything that you can in your life, and also to serve others, whether, through acts of kindness, and just remembering that divine love is amplified through selflessness. So we always want to be able to be of assistance and be able to, to serve others, right? And just daily also reflection. At the end of the day, we want to be able to reflect on how we've lived, right? And with this chapter 20, how have you lived, right? The teachings of chapter 20. If we're actually doing this more, is we're actually going to be experiencing spiritual growth. So we want to be able to hold ourselves accountable and see, how did we act in alignment with my higher self? What can I do to improve tomorrow? What did I do that was kind of out of control? What do I need to, to exercise more self-discipline, right? Um Also I have some affirmations that I could type up and send to the Moors later if you want to see them. Affirmations basically based on chapter 20. There's affirmations for self-control. And these are just things that we can say or think to ourselves. And really, what we're doing when we do affirmations, we're programming ourselves. And the reason why we would need to program ourselves is because if we've been doing something for years, it's not for our greater good, it's not for our benefit, chances are you're not just going to change overnight. So there's affirmations for self-control because we all need it, at least sometimes. There may be things that you got under control that I don't, right? I have affirmations for self-control, for moderation, um, also for virtuous relationships and for divine love. And these are just things that we could say to ourselves. I got like 3 for each of those things that I mentioned. But those are just things that we could say to ourselves throughout the day, or maybe just when you need to, you know. Also, some exercises that we could do to put these things into practice on a daily basis. Um, Reflecting just on a daily basis, just reflecting on the actions, the thoughts that we've taken throughout the day, just to make sure that they're in alignment. A good way to do that would be to have a journal. I know everybody's not going to write down the stuff that they've done throughout the day, but that is a good way of looking to see, how our thoughts, actions, and deeds are lining up. But just once again, though, just want to hit on that, the importance of meditation. You could just sit for like 5 minutes each morning and just focus on your breathing. right? And then maybe also try doing it in the evening as well. But those are just some things that I suggest doing just to strengthen ourselves, right? Because as we practice self-discipline, right? Resisting our own lower self, because the lower self, remember, is referred to as the madness of desire in verse 2. The madness of desire, and it blinds us to spiritual truth. It creates illusions of fulfillment that always lead to destruction. Remember, the lower self is traveling the earth to and fro, seeking whom it may devour. So as we express or begin to show discipline over this lower self, there's only one thing that can happen, and that's the unfoldment of Allah within. So we want to do this and practice this every day, because that lower self is always the madness of desire, always, right? For deeper spiritual insight, you can look into the Quran of Mecca, chapter 91, verses 7 through 10. Allah mentions in there that the soul has been inspired with both its wickedness and its righteousness, and that success lies in purifying it. We must do this work, even if no one else is going to do the work but us. So we're being called upon to do this work and then to build our communities off of this, right? So there's no way we can leave this out. And just looking once again, we have the allegory of the virtuous woman. Remember, she's a metaphor for the higher self, right? The higher self, which shines with purity, wisdom, and truth. And virtue is magnetic. It draws others towards the light of Allah. So we're not out here trying to tell people what to do and how to do the right thing. We're to be the truth. We're to be the light. All right. And then it draws others to the light. So ultimately, we're to come in and uplift by being, living off of these principles, right? We resist the harlot's allures, right? Because by doing this, it aligns with the Prophet Noble Drew Ali's teaching to return to the state of your forefathers' divine and national principles. We're returning to before the fall, right? Because chapter 1 in the Holy Koran of the Moorish Science Temple of America is the creation and fall of man. All right. So we're returning to our true nature. Remember, it says in there in chapter 1 that ultimately we're all going to do this anyway. But if we're all going to do it, it must start somewhere, and it must start with us. We can't expect anyone else to do it. And on that note, Moors, I yield the floor. If you Moors have any questions or any comments, please feel free to speak. And on that note, I'm going to go ahead and go on mute. You could just go ahead and speak up. Islam.
Islam Grand Sheikh. I like to rise and give the highest of praise to Allah and extend honors to all the Moors on the call. And so I did have a question for you. I don't know if I remember this incorrectly. So I was going into like when you said not to choose like a false attraction to lower self. And so I basically wanted to know, would there be something like a true attraction to lower self? Because I believe like about a year ago, you read something in the Holy Quran talking about choose a wife that is fitting to that stature, like far as a wife or a woman that you would want that's like shapely into what you like or something like that. I don't know if I heard that Quran. It's like something else I heard somewhere else. And so basically I want to know if that is in our Quran somewhere, and what would be an example of like a true attraction to the lower self. And with that I give up the mic.
Islam Grand Sheik. I don't know. I don't think anybody can hear you.
Islam. Yeah, I thought I was off of mute. Sorry about that. Apologies. Um, I don't know if you heard anything I said, but um, so the verse that you're talking about, those instructions, right? This, you know, um, telling the man that a woman is pleasing to the eyes. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But those instructions actually come after these, and these instructions are lifting our thoughts up to a higher vibration, a higher level, so that we're not just basing the relationships that we're getting into just off of appearances and things of that nature, right? It's raising our thoughts up to a higher level, because if we're doing that, eventually it's going to lead to destruction. It's going to lead to problems, right? And even in saying this stuff, like, have to be careful how things are worded, because it's like there's a woman out there that's listening, has got surgeries. This is not to like make her feel bad, for any of that stuff. But this is a warning to all the young men that don't base the woman that you choose to be with off of body parts, right? That's the madness of desire. It shall defeat its own pursuits, right? From the blindness of his rage, thou shalt rush upon destruction, because you're going after all this stuff. It's going to degrade and go down, because that's how life works. The youth is fleeting, you know? And so we want to raise our thoughts up to a higher level. And now, okay, you're reading the later instructions, and she's pretty. But that's way after all of these other higher virtues have been met, right? That's like the last thing that matters. It's not number one. So we want to, to raise our thoughts up to higher vibration. And as we do this, then now we're able to make decisions, better decisions. Because before that, we're making decisions. It's actually making our life harder, right? We're creating children with people that we don't even like, that we can't stand. We're doing all types of other stuff too. It's making our lives more difficult, bringing about destruction, right? Increasing the stress levels. And so, like, we have to change. We have to flip. We have to raise our thoughts up to divine wisdom. Islam, Islam, brother.
Islam Grand Sheik. Could I? Yeah, I have one more question to go with that. So I got to try to figure out how to to phrase this. So basically, just imagine like two people got into like, what is your advice on this? So like, two people they got married when they were younger, and this can go like either way because I know it has something like maintaining our desires or whatever. So what is your advice to like a couple that might get married when they get older? And like, say it's like usually it's like with the man first, like say it's like a man loses his like what I'm saying testosterone or vice versa, the woman loses her estrogen, as far as like in the what I'm saying, in the what I'm saying, intercourse. And so what would your advice be like that? Because that may come like 30 or 40 years down into the marriage or something like that. And so, because I know it's talking about, what I'm saying, us keeping our spiritual stuff up in our mind, right? But what about when those kind of type of problems that arises? And with that, I give up the mic.
Islam, that's a good question. And actually right in alignment with what we've been talking about, like, um, so these instructions and warnings, right? Because it's also warnings. It's in here. It's giving us insight into what we should be pursuing, right? Or what we should be feeding ourselves with over time. So if we're just in the world and we're not um we're not doing any work to spiritually enlighten ourselves, then over time, right, we're not actually growing, we're just getting older. And we're gonna have these issues and problems because we still want to feed the lower self. Okay. So it's like 10 years, 20 years, 30 years have gone by. If we're not doing any work to, to enlighten ourselves so that there's more to life than just, what's being told to us in society, we're gonna have problems. And there's nothing that anyone's gonna be able to do about it. Right? Nobody's gonna be able to fulfill you or fulfill the next person, right? Nobody's going to be able to help them with those issues. You know, that's why people, they'll be taking pills and all types of stuff, but they'll never be fulfilled. There's nothing you can do for them. So, in all honesty, we have to abide by these holy instructions and warnings, right? Not just for all young men, for all of us, even though it's talking to the men so that we don't become monsters, right? But this is, actually universal advice for all of us, right? Because the fountain of health, which must supply the stream of pleasure, shall quickly be dried up. Every spring of joy shall be exhausted. That's if we're only feeding it the lower self desires, right? So we must be on this quest, this journey to enlighten ourselves. But those things like that won't even be an issue, right? Because you're growing spiritually, right? And then as you reach in these older ages, more enlightened. That's not even supposed to be an issue, but it is. It's a very real issue because, in general, in humanity, we're not doing any work, or many of us aren't doing any work. Islam, brother?
Yeah, Islam. Yeah, that completely answered my question. And it's like for some odd reason, 4 and 5 flew versus 4 and 5 just flew right over my head. But that goes to exactly what I was asking about. Okay, with that, I understand it a lot better.
Islam. And then it's actually telling us the opposite happens, right? When virtue and modesty enlighten her charms, the luster of a woman is brighter than the stars of heaven, and the influence of her power it is in vain to resist. And this could be talking about a woman, but also could be talking about our own higher self, right? So as we do that work to, connect to our true nature, right? Instead of declining with age, right? Which the body can do, but we're actually becoming more in tune with the truth, with spirit, and so there is no decline. Islam and the relationships that we have can actually grow and blossom, right? Actually become greater because we're on a spiritual journey. But man, it's hell if we're not on a spiritual journey. It's going to be hell. It could get really ugly and on both sides. So, we want to do the work spiritually because like if we're not, we're all madmen, we're all crazy. And it's all about, traveling to and fro seeking whom I may devour. So it gets really ugly. So we want to be on this higher spiritual path. And ideally, these are the only type of relationships we really want to be in, whether it's friendship, you know, male and female relationship, whatever, right? We want to be on a higher path. And these are the type of relationships we want to entertain. Islam, I yield the floor. If there's any other questions or comments, please feel free to speak.
Islam Grand Street, brother. Still, I give all eyes and praise to Allah and to everybody on this call. You're right, Grand Street. What a man should look for is a friend, foremost a friend. You build your relationship first with that person. Because, like you say, looks are fleeting. You get old, looks are fleeting, things change. But one thing does not change. When you look at your Moabites or you look at your Moabite and you look at them in the eyes, you can see what you fell in love with them in the first place, their character, their nature. Because, like I said, looks all go away. And each man and each woman should be looking forward to building that bond and nature with that person before they go to the extra step. I hear the floor, Passion.
Islam, brother, and gratitude. And this is why we want to instill this in the children now. I've been with my wife for 23 over 23 years now. But like when we got together, we were younger and didn't know all of this stuff. So we're not making the best decisions. So we have to grow, spiritually. And like if that's not occurring, things are gonna get ugly, you know? And it could be self-destructive for everyone involved. And so we want to give this to the youth so that when they're younger, they're not making foolish decisions it's only going to lead to destruction, right? It's extremely important that we take this on, live it, and be able to, to give this to the youth as well. Because without these divine instructions, they will be out here drowning in the cares of the world. All right, especially if they're old enough to procreate. Right, we want them to get this now. It's of the utmost importance. That's also why this is. You see, it says young men, instructions and warnings for all young men. So this is extremely important, Morris. Islam. And on that note, I yield the floor. If there's any other questions or comments, Morris, please feel free to speak.
Islam, Grand Sheik. I've been with my queen for 26 years, married 23. And like she tells me, I'm not going nowhere, you not either. So whether you like it or not, you get mad at me, you better get glad again because we're not going nowhere. We're meant to be each other. And that's how it's supposed to be. And we need to teach our young the same thing because the way the world right now is not good. And everything is going topsy-turvy right now. So this is the time. This is the year we need to all start building together and joining together. Put all the negativity to the side, all those negative brothers and sisters that want to be in the world, let them be. Because if you can't trust them with your family, then you can't trust them at all. Because the most important thing is to any Muslim is their family and knowledge. That is the key for everything. We have both. We have the wealthiest person, the wealthiest family, the wealthiest beings on this earth. I yield the floor.
Islam, brother, praise Allah. And yeah, I agree with you on everything you said, brother. And just this is of the utmost importance, Morris. So on that note, though, I'm gonna yield the floor again. If there's any other questions or comments, Morris, please feel free to speak. Okay, I'm going to announce without further ado, we're going to go ahead and go into the closing of the meeting. Don't go anywhere, Morris. We're going to read our divine warning right now. A divine warning by the prophet for the nations. The citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are all of one family bearing one free national name. Those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classed as undesirables and are subject to all inferior names and abuses and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. And it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional laws of a free national government and cling to the names and the principles that delude to slavery. I, the prophet, was prepared by the great God Allah to warn my people to repent from their sinful ways and go back to the state of mind, to their forefathers' divine and national principles, that they will be law abiders and receive their divine right as citizens according to the free national constitution that was prepared for all free national beings. They are to claim their own free national name and religion. There is but one issue for them to be recognized by this government and of the earth, and it comes only through the connection of the Moorish divine national movement, which is incorporated in this government and recognized by all other nations of the world. And through it, they and their children can receive their divine rights, unmolested by other citizens, that they can cast a free national ballot at the polls under the free national constitution of the state's government, and not under a granted privilege, as has been the existing condition for many generations. You who doubt whether I, the prophet, and my principles are right for the redemption of my people, go to those that know the law in the city hall and among the officials in your government, and ask them under an intelligent tone, and they will be glad to render you a favorable reply. For they are glad to see me bring you out of darkness into light. Money doesn't make the man. It is free national standards and power that makes a man and a nation. The wealth of all national governments, gold and silver and commerce, belong to the citizens alone, and without your national citizenship, by name and principles, you have no true wealth. And I am hereby calling on all true citizens that stand for a national free government and the enforcement of the Constitution to help me in my great missionary work, because I need all support from all true American citizens of the United States of America. Help me to save my people who have fallen from the constitutional laws of the government. I am depending on your support to get them back to the constitutional fold again, that they will learn to love instead of hate, and will live according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, supporting our free national Constitution of the United States of America. I love my people, and I desire their unity and mine back to their own free national and divine standard, because day by day they have been violating the national and constitutional laws of their government by claiming names and principles that are unconstitutional. If Italians, Greeks, English, Chinese, Japanese, Turks, and Arabians are forced to proclaim their free national name and religion before the constitutional government of the United States of America, it is no more than right that the law should be enforced upon all other American citizens alike. In all other governments, when a man is born and raised there and asks for his national descent name, and if he fails to give it, he is misused, imprisoned, or exiled. Any group of people that fail to answer up to the constitutional standards of law by name and principles, because to be a citizen of any government, you must claim your national descent name, because they place their trust upon issue and names formed by their forefathers. The word Negro deludes in the Latin language to the word nigger, the same as the word colored deludes to anything that is painted, varnished, and dyed. And every nation must bear a national descent name of their forefathers, because honoring thy fathers and thy mothers, your days will be lengthened upon this earth. These names have never been recognized by any true American citizens of this day. Through your free national name, you are known and recognized by all nations of the earth that are recognized by said national government in which they live. The 14th and 15th Amendments brought the North and South in unit, placing the Southerners, who were at that time without power, with the constitutional body of power. And at that time, 1865, the free national constitutional law that was in force since 1774 declared all men equal and free. And if all men are declared by the free national constitution to be free and equal, since that constitution has never been changed, there is no need for the application of the 14th and 15th Amendments for the salvation of our people and citizens. So, there isn't but one supreme issue for my people to use to redeem that which was lost, and that is through the above statements. Then the lion and the lamb can lie down together in yonder hills, and neither will be harmed, because love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice will be reigning in this land. In those days, the United States will be one of the greatest civilized and prosperous out by the citizens, and my people in this government. The worst is yet to come, because the great God of the universe is not pleased with the works that are being performed in North America by my people, and this great sin must be removed from the land to save it from enormous earthquakes, disease, etc. And I, the prophet, do hear and believe that this administration of the government, being more wisely prepared by more genius citizens that believe in their free national constitution and laws, and through the help of such classes of citizens, I, the prophet, truly believe that my people will find the true and divine way of their forefathers and learn to stop serving carnal customs and merely ideas of man that have never done them any good but have always harmed them. So I, the prophet, am hereby calling aloud with a divine plea to all true American citizens to help me to remove this great sin which has been committed and is being practiced by my people in the United States of America, because they know it is not the true and divine way, and without understanding they have fallen from the true light into utter darkness of sin. And there is not a nation on earth today that will recognize them socially, religiously, politically, or economically, etc., in their present condition of their endeavorment in which they themselves try to force upon a civilized world. They will not refrain from their sinful ways of action, and their deeds have brought Jim Crowism, segregation, and everything that brings harm to human beings on earth. And they fought the Southerner for all these great misuses, but I have traveled in the South and have examined conditions there, and it is the works of my people continuously practicing the things which bring dishonor, disgrace, and disrespect to any nation that lives the life. And I am hereby calling on all true American citizens for moral support and finance to help me in my great missionary work to bring my people out of darkness into marvelous light. From the Prophet. All right, Islam Moors. Before we close out, I just want to put the call out there for anyone that would like to assist us in the great work of uplifting fallen humanity. Make sure to go to the website for our temple, MoorishAmericans.com, and send a donation to the temple. Just scroll down to the bottom and use that button to send your donation. For anyone out there who is thinking about joining, proclaiming your nationality, would like to do so at any point, make sure to reach out to us. Same website, just hit the contact button on there. You can send us a message. The phone number is also on there as well. You can fill out the form. I'm not sure what's happening. It's not going there, but okay, there it is. You can fill out that form, or you can use the phone number on there to give us a call. We will need to speak to you and, if possible, meet up as well. But you can use that information to reach out to us. And then before we close, just want to say also, temple dues will be due for December. The temple dues are $30 for all general members, and so that, just putting that out there as a reminder to everyone, that's coming up soon. And so we will also be having a food giveaway for a nonprofit on Sunday. That is this Sunday. We'll be there to start setting up around 1. But that will be Sunday at the library in Reynoldsburg. We've been sharing the flyer for that online. But that's at the Reynoldsburg Library for people in Columbus. If you're able to, please make sure you come down, even if you just want to come down to fellowship. If you have any goods goods that you want to give away, you could still participate. Just bring them down there. Make sure you come down early, around 1. But that will be this Sunday at the Reynoldsburg Library. And then I believe that is it. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. I want to ask all who are able to please rise and face the east for the closing prayer. You do not need to repeat after me. Allah, bind our hearts and minds back to our ancient forefathers' divine creed and principles. We ask this in thy holy name, in the 7 Elohim. Amen. Islam, peace and love, Moors. This meeting is now adjourned. Happy Holy Day.
Islam. Happy Holy Day, family. Peace and love.
Happy holiday.
Peace and love.